Hello, welcome to the Health Breakdown. If you're over 60, what you eat becomes more important than ever. Your body isn't quite the same as it was in your 30s or 40s, and your metabolism, digestion, and nutrient absorption all go through some changes. This means the choices you make, especially about seemingly small things like snacks, can have a much bigger impact. And when it comes to nuts, believe it or not all of them are doing you favors. Some might actually be contributing to issues you're trying to avoid, while others could be working like silent guardians, supporting your heart, brain, and energy levels in ways you might not even realize. Now, this isn't about being alarmist, it's about being smart. After 60, your body starts to speak a little louder. It tells you more clearly what it likes and what it doesn't. Maybe you've noticed it. Foods that used to sit just fine now leave you bloated or fatigued, or they mess with your blood pressure or joints. That's your body asking for a change, and believe me, nuts. Yes, those tiny things you might think of as just toppings or snacks can make a real difference, either for better or worse. You see, certain nuts carry oils and compounds that can be inflammatory, especially if you're already dealing with issues like arthritis, high blood pressure, or slower digestion. They might taste great, they might even seem healthy, but in reality, they can be triggering low-grade stress in your body that you don't need. That stress builds over time and can make it harder to maintain the kind of vitality and sharpness you deserve to feel each day. That's why knowing which ones to steer clear of isn't just useful, it's essential. But on the flip side, there are a few nuts that do the exact opposite. These are the kinds your body almost thanks you for. They're packed with the right fats, fiber, and micronutrients that support your immune system, help regulate cholesterol, and keep your mind clear and focused. The right nuts can help you stabilize blood sugar levels, keep inflammation at bay, and even promote better sleep. And those are the things that start to matter more and more as the years go by. Not just adding time to your life, but adding life to your time. So if you're in that chapter of life where feeling good matters more than ever, and you're paying closer attention to what your body is telling you, trust me, getting clear on which nuts to skip and which to keep might be one of the smallest, most powerful changes you can make. And it starts with knowing exactly what to reach for and what to leave behind. Let me say this: words matter, and sometimes just a few carefully chosen ones can grab your attention in a way that sticks. That's exactly why I say things like never touch these, or you've been warned. It's not about scaring you. It's about cutting through the noise, because let's face it, there's a lot of confusion out there when it comes to what's good for you and what isn't, especially as you get older. Every day, there's a new headline or a study saying something different, and it's easy to get overwhelmed, to the point where you end up doing nothing at all. But when I say there are 3 nuts you should never touch, I mean it. Not because I want to shock you, but because I want you to pay attention to the little things that often get overlooked. See, urgency isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's the push we need to finally stop brushing things off and start making changes. When we're in our 30s or even 40s, we can get away with a lot. Late nights, bad habits, quick snacks that don't serve our bodies at all. But once you cross 60, the leeway gets smaller. Your margin for error starts to shrink. And that's not a weakness, that's just nature's way of telling you it's time to pay attention to the details. Those little choices you make each day, they add up faster than you think. So yes, the tone may sound dramatic, but it's there to snap you out of autopilot. Because that's what too many of us do. We hit a certain age and we just start coasting. We say, well, I've been eating this way for years, or one little snack won't hurt. But what used to be a harmless habit can quietly become a daily burden on your body if you're not tuned in. I want you to feel empowered to make better decisions, not out of fear, but out of clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes when someone finally says it straight. That's why I say never touch these, instead of softening the message. Because the truth is, Some foods are just working against you, and they don't deserve a spot on your plate anymore. Not when you've worked hard your whole life to get here, not when you've got more life to enjoy and more energy to protect. And on the other side of that warning, there's encouragement too, because there are also those nuts you absolutely should be eating. The ones that support your heart, your joints, your mind, even your sleep. And that's the part I get excited about. Because once you know, really know, the difference between the good and the bad, you're in the driver's seat. So if the tone got your attention, good. It's meant to. Because this isn't the time to ignore the signals. Let's talk about something simple, something we all understand, a list. There's something comforting about it, isn't there? A clear set of do's and don'ts. When I tell you there are 3 nuts to avoid and 3 you should absolutely be eating, I'm not giving you a lecture. I'm giving you a tool. Because in a world full of information, and often too much of it, what we really need is clarity. No fluff, no long explanations buried in technical terms. Just a straight answer, something you can remember when you're standing in front of the pantry or walking through the grocery aisle. That's why I chose to frame it this way. 3 to skip, 3 to keep. It's not because the number matters all that much, but because it makes the change manageable. Too many people think that improving how they feel after 60 means overhauling everything, every meal, every routine, every habit. That's overwhelming. And when things feel overwhelming, we shut down. But what if it was simpler than that? What if it came down to a few key decisions that you could start making today, without stress or confusion? That's where this kind of list becomes powerful. You don't need to memorize charts or chase fads. You just need to know which nuts are quietly adding pressure to your body, whether it's through inflammation, extra oils, or hidden sugars, and which ones are quietly supporting it, keeping your energy steady, your joints moving freely, and your mind a little clearer each day. This list gives you a starting point. It helps you take control without turning your life upside down. And the best part, once you feel the difference, you'll start to crave more of that clarity in other areas of your life too. I've seen it happen. People who start with something small, like swapping out a nut mix, and end up feeling better in ways they didn't expect. They sleep more soundly, their digestion improves, their afternoon crashes disappear, and they didn't go on a diet or sign up for some complicated program. They just made a smarter choice, one that was laid out simply and clearly in front of them. That's why this isn't just a list, it's a way forward. It's not meant to overwhelm, it's meant to guide. Something you can return to again and again, especially when things feel confusing or noisy. When you can remember just 6 simple nuts, 3 to avoid, 3 to embrace, you've already taken a big step. You've already started tuning in to what your body needs now, in this phase of life, without making it a battle. And it's those small, wise steps that often lead to the biggest change. Let's be honest, when I say you've been warned, it catches your ear, doesn't it? That phrase makes you stop for a second, maybe even raises your eyebrow. And that's the point, because warnings aren't about being dramatic for the sake of it. They're about making sure you don't miss something important, especially when it comes to your body. When it comes to how you feel every day, sometimes you need someone to say it plainly, without sugarcoating it. You need a voice that doesn't soften the truth just to keep things comfortable. I'm not here to scare you, but I am here to tell you that your choices matter. Every bite, every habit, every routine, especially after 60, has more weight than it used to, not because you're fragile, but because your body's been working hard for decades. It's earned the right to be treated with more care, more intention, and if certain foods, yes, even certain nuts, are quietly working against you, then I believe you deserve to know. Not 5 years from now, not after another round of discomfort or fatigue, but now. That's why the warning matters. It's easy to ignore subtle symptoms. A little bloating, a bit of stiffness, An afternoon crash, you chalk it up to aging or stress or maybe a poor night's sleep. But often, those are your body's early alerts. And if you keep missing them, if you keep reaching for that same snack because it's familiar or marketed as healthy, you're not giving your body the chance to feel better. That's why I say what I say with urgency, because by the time something feels serious, it's often been building quietly for years. This is not about fear. It's about awareness. It's about listening to the messages your body is sending and giving those messages the respect they deserve. Some foods might seem harmless, but the way they interact with your system now isn't the same as it was 10 or 20 years ago. It's different. Your digestion is different. Your blood flow, your energy needs, they've shifted. And if you're still eating the same way you did back then, it might be time to take a closer look. You've been warned not to scare you, but to wake you up just enough to ask the right questions. To stop assuming that because something is small, it's insignificant. Because it's often those tiny things, the handful of nuts in the evening, the snack you grab out of habit, that slowly shape how you feel every day. And if you have the chance to make one small change that brings more clarity, more energy, and more ease to your body, why wouldn't you take it? Sometimes the quietest problems need the loudest wake-up call. One thing I've noticed over the years is that we tend to put too much trust in the surface of things. We look at packaging, we hear a buzzword like natural or heart, healthy, and we assume we're making the right choice. But if you've lived long enough, and I know many of you have, you've probably learned the hard way that not everything is as it seems. That's especially true when it comes to food. And when I talk about certain nuts you should avoid or embrace, I'm not making wild guesses. This is about going deeper than the label. It's about understanding what's really happening when you put something into your body and expecting it to work for you, not against you. Now, the tricky part is that some of the so-called bad nuts aren't really bad for everyone. That's where people get confused. You'll hear someone say, "But I thought that nut was good for you." And sure, maybe for a younger person with a faster metabolism and fewer sensitivities, it doesn't cause any issues. But once you pass 60, the story starts to shift. Your body processes fats and sugars differently. Your joints may be more sensitive to inflammation. Your energy levels may dip faster, and those nuts that once felt fine now come with a side of bloating, stiffness, or even fatigue that sneaks in a few hours later. But you don't always trace it back to the food, because no one's told you to look there. That's why I want to bring real awareness to the choices you're making. When I say certain nuts should be avoided, I'm not pointing fingers for no reason. I'm saying it because your body deserves better. And I'm also saying that not all nuts are created equal. Some are packed with the right kinds of fats and nutrients, things that actually work with your body to keep your mind sharp, your digestion smooth, and your heart steady. These are the ones I want you to focus on. They don't just fill you up, they fuel you. They nourish you in a way that aligns with where you are now, not where you were 20 years ago. And listen, you don't need to become a food expert to make better choices. That's not what this is about. I'm not asking you to memorize every detail or research every ingredient. I'm simply asking you to slow down, pay attention, and ask the right questions. What am I really eating? How does it make me feel? Could something that seems small actually be having a big effect? Because once you start thinking that way, once you stop taking everything at face value, you begin to take control in a whole new way. You stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. And that shift, that's where the real power is. Don't be fooled by the label, trust how your body responds. Let's take a moment to talk about something that's become far too common, being lured in by headlines that promise miracles or dangers in just a few words. You've seen it. Eat this one food to lose belly fat. Never eat this again or you'll regret it. It's everywhere. And when I say something like 3 nuts to never touch, you might think it sounds like more of the same. Just another exaggerated headline trying to grab your attention. But here's the difference. So I'm not here to sell hype. I'm here to help you cut through it, because buried beneath all the noise, there's often a simple truth just waiting to be heard. That's why I used strong language. Not because I'm trying to scare you, but because I know how easy it is to scroll past something that could actually change your life if it were said a little louder. We're constantly bombarded with advice, suggestions, trends, and studies, so much so that even the important stuff starts to blend in with the fluff. So sometimes you need a phrase that stops you in your tracks. You need a little urgency to get your attention, not to manipulate you, but to remind you that your time and your health are too valuable to be lost in the static. Now, here's the truth about messages like this one. They're often dismissed as clickbait. And sometimes that's exactly what they are. Empty promises, misleading claims, but not always. Sometimes the headline is dramatic because the issue underneath it actually matters more than we've been willing to admit. And in this case, when we're talking about what you eat, something that affects your energy, your clarity, your strength, yes, it matters. More than most people realize, especially after 60, when the little things don't stay little anymore. The good news is, once you recognize what's real and what's just noise, everything changes. You stop chasing fads. You stop feeling overwhelmed. You stop clicking on every new miracle food or trend. Instead, you focus on what works. You focus on real, sustainable choices that support how you want to feel, not just for today, but long term. It's not about fear, and it's not about hype. It's about finally seeing through the fog of overcomplicated advice and getting back to something clear and practical. So yes, the title sounds bold. It's meant to, not to mislead you, but to pull you in and deliver something useful, something real. Because if that's what it takes to help you stop making the same quiet mistakes every day, then maybe a little boldness is worth it. In the end, it's not about the headline. It's about whether the truth behind it leads you to something better. Don't dismiss the message just because it made you look twice.